All right, I think we can call the meeting to order, 7:02. I don't see any public participation. Next is approving the minutes from October. So motion to approve October minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Robin,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Deanna,
Yes.
Christina,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
and Stefan.
Abstain,
Hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4,
unless you
5.
don't have a quorum.
We would not have a quorum without you, Stefan.
Give,
It's okay. You can vote on minutes that you weren't here for. No problem.
it was, I haven't actually been able to read them either, so I
Oh.
can't really technically get,
Point.
We can table it to see if more people join.
Yeah,
Yep.
let's do that.
table it and I will read them in parallel while we're talking.
Okay,
Melissa, I do have a question. Do we need to have people vote to my abbreviated minutes from Monday?
Did we have a quorum?
No, but we didn't have any votes, so you only need a quorum to vote, not to have a meeting.
Not sure. We can wait till next time. That's not a big meeting. That's not a big issue.
Yeah.
We'll get some clarification.
Just let me know, Melissa. So a draft is out there and been distributed. I have realized there is one error. Sharon was in attendance. I didn't know her from the audience video.
okay. So you said you sent the notes to everybody or no?
Yes, last night.
Okay. All right. I don't remember seeing them, but I'll take a look. Okay. Next item is we have a presentation by Aaron Kokinda on the 40A zoning. Aaron, I gave you co-host ability if you want to share.
Oh, sure. So first off, Robin and I were emailing back and forth, and I figured I'll just kind of start off the presentation, and Robin and Julie is here as well, can kind of add anything that I may be forgetting. So thank you so much for having me back, Aaron Kokinda from the town of Wakefield. I'm pretty sure I know 90% of the people on this call, but I was here probably in the springtime, I want to say, just coming in front of you, letting you know about what MBTA Communities is, 40A. I don't know if anyone by a show of hands needs me to kind of give a background of what it is, or we all feel pretty comfortable of why I'm here tonight explaining the proposed district that this MBTA working group's been working really hard on. So does anybody want a quick 101 MBTA Communities, or do we think we're good?
I think I give it, Aaron. I don't know
Okay.
if like some of our students and stuff know about it. Just quick.
Sure. So why I'm here tonight is the state mandated back in 2020 to amend the Massachusetts Zoning Act to promote the production of multifamily housing within walking distance of public transportation to address a regional shortage of housing. The state currently has an estimated shortage of about 200,000 housing units. So this zoning act that they're putting forward, that is a law, will require MBTA communities, which Wakefield is one of them. An MBTA community can be a commuter rail community, which Wakefield is, rapid transit, which is something like Melrose, who has the orange line there, as well as bus communities and adjacent communities to these MBTA communities that have rail, bus, and rapid transit. So an MBTA community must have at least one multifamily zoning district of reasonable size, which will allow multifamily housing permitted by right. And I'll get into the difference between right and what a special permit is. And right now we currently have multifamily by special permit. Existing regulations and, for example, setbacks, dimensional regulations are still enforced. And we, like I mentioned before, we are an MBTA community because we do have the commuter rail here, both in Wakefield Center as well as down in Greenwood. And just something else to note, and I think we see it in the news almost every day, that Massachusetts is one of the highest and fastest growing home prices and rents in this any state throughout the nation. And the reason that the state has decided to kind of pitch this MBTA communities is they're trying to create transit-oriented communities that are walkable to services. People can easily get to work by not having to get into single occupancy vehicles. And I've been in front of a few groups before talking about different transit methods that we can get into here in town, increased utilization of our public transit, and then, you know, just it's better for the environment as well to build kind of this denser housing around our transit stations. So that's kind of the background of where this law came into place. And so back in early 2023, we went in front of the town council, me and Jim Hogan from the planning board, to present this whole MBTA communities law. From there was an MBTA working group that was put together that Julie Smith-Galvin is on, as well as Robin Greenberg. Planning board, we have Jim Hogan as well as Matt Lowry. We have Greg McIntosh from the ZBA. We also have a resident, Matt Bowen. I always say his name wrong. And am I forgetting anyone? I think that's everyone. And so this group has been working really hard since probably about April, May, working together to get a district that makes the most sense, that we think makes the most sense to kind of fit this law. So I'm here tonight to show you what we're proposing at a town meeting in the spring. Would love feedback, and I hopefully can answer any technical questions of how we got to where we are right now. So with that being said, I am going to share my screen, and I'm going to try to go a little quicker than I did last night. I went to the Council on Aging, and I feel like now at this point I could talk about this subject in circles, and I still don't have all the answers. So the district that we're proposing will comply with all state zoning requirements. It will center around the Wakefield commuter rail station, unfortunately not the Greenwood, but something that we'll continue to talk about possibly through this MBTA working groups area, not through this law, but other ways that we can get multifamily housing down there. It just didn't make sense, and I'll get into why. This proposed multifamily zoning district allows as of right developments to be up to 3 stories. This is what we're proposing, 3 stories and a maximum of 4 units per lot. In the multifamily zoning district, will exclude commercial parcels along North Ave, Main Street, and Albion Street to protect Wakefield's commercial footprint. And that's really important. And I'll get into that as well, but that was something that we kind of were trying to work around for a long time. And then the state 2 months ago came in front of us and said, oh no, you can do mixed use, but we feel like what we have right here is a really strong proposal. And we believe that the special permit process that we have with our multifamily mixed use is strong and something we'd like to keep in place. And so just so everyone knows the difference between as of right and a special permit, as of right is a development that may proceed without the need for a special permit, variance, zoning amendment, waiver, or any other discretionary zoning approval. So for example, if you're in a single residence zone here in town, you can go to the building department, get your building permit, and build a single family home. And for a special permit, for example, we have a bylaw 19032 that was passed back in 2015. That is our mixed use multifamily by special permit. And those are kind of the developments that you've seen along Foundry Street in our downtown area. So they have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals to get a special permit. They just can't go and do that. And a multifamily, I think, is an important definition for people to understand. And the state is calling multifamily 3 or more units and used to mean larger apartment buildings. So I think this is really important and something I really want to hit home with. And, you know, people keep asking me, what if we don't comply? Let's push back on the state. You know, why this is a top-down approach, which I think a lot of us can agree it is. And local zoning is a real thing, and zoning was given to towns for a reason. But there's a lot of negative things that could happen to the community if we don't comply. We'll lose a lot of eligible funding for grant programs that we've received. And in the last year, last 3 years, we've received $3.6 million in grant funds. And that includes the funds for doing our new master plan, which we're still working on, our MassWorks grant to do North Ave water main improvements. And we just received about $600,000 more in grant funds to do a new housing production plan, which falls in nicely with this, as well as do some sidewalk improvements on Hopkins Street to connect to that 40B there. The state also announced in March of 2023, an additional 14 programs were added to a list. So there's a handful of lists that either I've applied for, other departments have applied for, that we plan to apply for, that we would not really be eligible for if we are not compliant. And also, I think this is the big one, the Attorney General has threatened to sue towns if they are non-compliant. So what we need to hit, and what this is the state came forward with, is we need to be able to have the capacity, and I think that's a really important word for people to understand. This is capacity building. It's a zoning change that we're doing. We are not saying right now we need to build 1,696 units. It's a capacity, but this area needs to allow that. So basically saying, if you knock down this whole district, you should be able to build 1,696 units. So took down all those houses. The minimum district size has to be 114 acres in Wakefield, and we need to support a minimum gross density of 15 units per acre. The district cannot be more than a half mile from a commuter rail station and have no age restrictions, and must be suitable for families with children. So no bedroom or age restrictions. Our current zoning today, we do not have multifamily that are allowed by right. We do allow by special permit, which I've alluded to, and 2/3 of our zone land is for single family dwelling units already. 2-family homes are allowed in general residence, mixed use, neighborhood business, and business districts. And districts that allow 2 families are located around Wakefield Center and the Greenwood areas of town, and represent about 20% of town land. So what we're proposing is, you'll see, I keep saying 5 districts, but it's actually 4, because one of the district has to be over 50% the size of the district. So you'll see here, this is again around the Wakefield train station in downtown. This is, we're again excluding our commercial area, so Main, Albion, North. And we have it here on the west side of the train tracks, as well as supporting that downtown area sandwiched between Main Street and North, as well as Pleasant Street area and down towards that Richardson area. So these are the 4 districts that we're proposing. Again, this is what we're proposing is up to 4 units by right, not larger. Anything over 4, you have to go get a special permit, and no more than 3 stories. Just so everyone knows what our existing zoning is in this proposed area, just to give you an idea, it falls within our general residence currently and our business. And for general residence right now, you can do 2-family as of right. And so that's kind of that yellowish green, I don't know what it looks like on your computer, yellowish area. The red is our business, and the purple is our industrial, that Foundry Street area.
Aaron, can I just interrupt for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to remind folks that, so while something may be zoned residents, and you'll see examples that there are lots of current examples of non-conforming buildings with more than 2 units or 2 units or more. So a reminder that what zoning maps show is not necessarily what you see when you go around town, and that's important to understand the potential landscape in the future. That this is not something that's so unusual to what we already have in town. As someone who lives in one of these districts, I have lots of neighbors, lots around me that are in compliance today. So the key is all about the zoning is that you could make future as by right, as opposed to saying that this is going to happen overnight. So just to remind folks that.
That's a really good point. Thank you, Robin.
So why are all these places in non-compliance with zoning? Like, how does that happen?
Well, sometimes they predate zoning. Wakefield's an old town. And so some things could predate when, I don't know when our first map was, but you can always request variances to have something other than what's there. And so there's plenty of examples, Melissa, in our neighborhood, which is probably how that happened.
Okay.
Exactly. and getting the special permits, and I'll go to that too. And maybe I'll talk about that right now. You know, for example, I was making the point of this to someone the other day. So like I said, we have this 190/32 bylaw, which allows multifamily mixed use a half mile from our train stations. And so right now, someone could go to Avon Street if they wanted to and say, I want to do a 12-unit building. And they would have to do the special permit use, and it doesn't fall within that zoning, but they're able to get that special permit. So, so this district that we propose, would
Aaron,
create,
can I just ask a question? If they had to get that special permit, is that through the zoning board of appeals?
correct.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, thanks.
So this proposed district that we're putting in front of the town and public would create about 2,000, the capacity, I should say again, to create 2,355 units. So in your head, think again, if you took down all the buildings now and followed all these things that we're putting in front of you, up to 4 units, 3 stories, follow all the dimensional regulations, you could get up to 2,355 units.
Or modify an existing structure to follow these rules. They aren't necessarily new construction from.
No,
ground up.
I guess I'm just saying so people can visualize. Yeah, but yes, you could modify a current building to do up to 4. You could, so if you modified all these buildings here and made them 4 units, then that's how the number of units that this would create. The allowable units per acre, again, this is important, that the state says you have to have 15 units per acre. With this district we're proposing, it's 16.3 units per acre. And as of right, the number of units 4, max stories 3, the building height 35, and the parking is something that we are still tossing around and going to be talking about at our next meeting, but we are kind of staying true to what we have already with some of these already multifamilies in town, and it's 1.5 per unit. And so that's currently what we have right now. So what Robin was alluding to earlier, kind of some existing Wakefield multifamilies that you'll see in these districts. On Pleasant Street here, there's already a 4-unit on a 5,663 square foot lot. And this should be on this slide, and I don't know why it's not, is that the minimum lot size that we're proposing is 4,000 square feet. And so that is consistent with what we currently have with our multifamily mixed use district. So you could do it anything lower than that, you can't do this. Richardson Street here, we have a 4-unit, kind of close to that 4,000 square foot lot, 4 units on 4,356 square foot lot. Wakefield Ave, 3 units on 5,663. And then Avon Street, 4 units at a 6,000 square foot lot. So just so people, and sometimes we get pushback on this development, but just I think what Robin was saying about in her neighborhood, and I don't live too far from here myself, this Chestnut Street that was just redeveloped is a 3-unit redevelopment that was just done. And just to give you an example of what you might see if someone decides to do these new developments by right, this is again on a 6,978 square foot lot. So it just gives you an idea. It might not fall in with all the dimensional regulations that we're putting forward that we're still working through, but something to visualize what a new one might look like.
Erin, can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
On the lot size, so does that mean that if a lot was smaller than 4,000 square feet, but they wanted to put a 3 or 4 units, that would still have to go to zoning board of appeals because that wouldn't fit within this?
It wouldn't fit within the minimum lot size that we're proposing. No. It would be really hard to be completely honest, to even make that work. It would be really, really tough.
Yeah.
Almost impossible, I think. And so just to give everyone some development context, here you'll find those units I just showed you in the past 2 slides and where they fall within these districts already. And where they got this 1696 number is they took 25% of our total housing unit census number. And so right now, it was from the previous census, I believe. But right now, the town of Wakefield has 11,261 total housing units, and that's the most recent census figures we have. And so these four districts here, we have a tool that we could use called residency. And what I did was I mapped out these areas to see how much the current housing units we have within these districts, and it's 1,641 units. And what the required housing unit capacity, like I said before, is 1,696. So we're not far from that. And what we're proposing is the 2,355. That doesn't mean that, you know, we're almost there. That's not what it means at all. I guess it's just showing, you know, that the number of units that you're seeing currently within this district is not far off than what the state is telling us that we need to create. So it allows an additional 714 units. And so this proposed district is about 145.5 acres. It's about 4,729.6 acres. And this proposed district is just about 3% of Wakefield's land. And again, reasons for the proposed district, you know, I kind of talked about at the beginning, it's a state mandate and law, so we need to follow it. You know, if it passes at town meeting. And I think we can all, again, we hear about what people are paying for homes right now, what people are paying for rent. Clearly it's a real thing. Housing is a real crisis here that we're having in Massachusetts. We're losing businesses, and companies are moving out of Massachusetts because their employees can't afford to stay here. And so we're trying to find that middle housing to try to keep people here and increase our housing stock as well. And that's a bigger picture as Massachusetts, but I think more at that local level, I think it kind of fits in there the same. We want to be able to people to be able to downsize and stay here, and also be close to our business district, drive economic development by increasing foot traffic around our downtown corridors, and increase housing options near our transit station. And so
Karen, can I just add something?
Yeah,
Going
go
back to the
ahead.
map? And another under reason of the district, just to explain a little bit of the shape.
Yeah.
Because I've heard some criticism that we're providing more than the state requires. If you look carefully, we were very intentional of where the line is drawn. If we were to have done the minimum, we would have had to do partial streets.
Mhm.
And so we thought that didn't make sense as from a neighborhood standpoint, that, you know, half the street have one rule and half have the other. So we went to the end of the blocks.
Mhm.
And with our partners that are in planning and zoning, they also weighed in on comments on when they've had problems in the past of how districts have been drawn and how that impacts parcels and future questions. So taking the lessons of previous, how lines of boundaries were drawn is how that influenced it. So if you were to number crunch down to the minimum, you'd have a very strange map in terms of future people understanding why one, you know, number 15, you know, street has a different rule than 17. And so we didn't want that arbitrariness that would come in future. So we're going to intersections instead.
Thank you for adding that. I really appreciate that. And I didn't really touch on, and we do have a minimum map as well, playing around with numbers too, with 3 districts. But I think this group too, that whole Pleasant Street area, as well as down in Richardson, the blue that you're seeing, the blue districts that you're seeing on the right, we wanted to include that because people do take the bus, and we keep talking about the commuter rail, and we thought it was really important to also include the side of Main Street as well for the whole transit system on the bus and kind of that whole equity component as well. Sorry about that. My husband
Erin,
just yeah.
Erin, I have a question. For the back the slide a while ago about the that we might not be eligible for certain grants and programs, and the Attorney General might sue. Is that if we don't achieve the 1696, or is it if we don't enable that possible density by having this zoning? Like we are successful if we say yes to this zoning, not that we have to encourage all of those units to get built by some time frame.
So the first thing, yes. So
Okay,
it's
thank
being compliant and having the zoning in place. You will still be eligible for those grants.
In 50 years, if none of those structures in that zone change in terms of units, that does not change our compliance. And the
Exactly.
town is not asking homeowners to change, you know, their their property in any way. It just means that somebody currently owning or future owner could do it without, by right.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
Yes. And then we'll make sure that we concentrate on that as well. I don't want there to be the scare tactic that we're coming in and saying that you need to be doing this. It's a zoning change and it's a capacity exercise. And so thank you. We'll make sure we kind of hone on in on that a little bit more. So here's a district implementation schedule. Right now we are doing some public hearings, or not public hearings, I'm sorry, public meetings through the planning board. We had our first presentation last week. We'll be having, or 2 weeks. I don't know where time goes at this point. We'll be having our next one next Tuesday, as well as one in December. And from here, things are going to start moving really quickly, because I think everyone knows when you're doing a zoning proposal at town meeting, it has to go to the town council, then it needs to be referred to the planning board for public hearings, which will be occurring sometime in late winter. And so right now we're reaching out to as many groups as possible just to get everyone informed and make sure that everyone knows what we are proposing, and getting feedback if we need to make adjustments. If this doesn't work for people, we want to hear it all, so it's not a surprise to folks. We did go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm here in front of you guys tonight. And so something else I want to note too, that this is back in 2021, they changed the voting for zoning for housing to be simple majority, not 2/3. So if 51 say yes and 50, say no, 49 say no, then it passes. So that's important to know, because that was just changed back in 2021. So something to keep in mind is, I think, having many discussions with Town Administrator Mayo, folks on our working group committee, as well as a number of other folks in town, we do intend to comply with the 3A law, as well as the town council too. I think the reality is, people say, these grants that we don't get, if we don't get them, we don't get them. But people need to understand these grants are supporting current day situations that we're having too, not future development and growth. It's to fix, a sidewalk right down the street. If we're able to get money to fix that, then that's amazing. So I think we would really be, it would be unfortunate if we had lost that opportunity. So some sort of district is going to be presented, and it's in full compliance with the state zoning law. I already talked about the grant. It helps us to be part of this whole regional effort, as well as the Massachusetts effort to create meet the local and regional housing needs, provides increased housing option for Wakefield residents, centers growth around our downtown districts, kind of is another tool from that other mixed use multifamily, kind of meeting that middle housing though, and then by increases foot traffic too. So I think that's there's a whole website on it. I hope you help us spread the word. I'm here to answer any questions, technical, how we got some of these numbers. We don't really get into that too much. But Robin and Julie, you guys have been as involved in this as I have. If you have anything to add or anything I may have forgot that you think is really important, please let this group know.
Well, I think the record just say, Erin, you've done way more than me.
I wouldn't be sane right now if I didn't have this group. Let's just say that. So.
And just so folks know, Erin has been in touch with the state regularly as this process has gone on to get some feedback, because they do have to accept it, and they have vetted it. They've provided comments. We've had to make some adjustments. There's a little nuance on the map where you see that we're crossing the train tracks because they wanted the development connected. But we were fighting with the business. So we have one parcel that, kind of conjoins some areas, and that's because that's what the state said we needed to do in order to meet the rules. So the rules, you may question how they came to be, but they're the ones we had to work with.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. I think we will all admit that the law is not written the best. The whole affordability piece, which is something that's been brought up a lot, and I didn't really touch on this. was a real sticking point for many planners, as well as the whole mixed use component. They did end up adding that part in, but they're not making it easy. And so the affordability part, you can do up to 10%. So that would be 1 for 4 units. And I have a real, basically it's been said in some meetings, if you're doing these smaller developments and you come forward and saying that you're going to do 10% for 4 units, they're going to say no, the state, because it's not feasible for the developer. But I think the tool that we have right now, anything more than that 10%, or any more than 4 units, they have to abide by our 18% inclusionary zoning. So it's more than that 10% is wonderful. If any towns are proposing more than 10% through this 40A law, they have to do an economic feasibility study. A lot of them I heard have not heard anything back from the state on that. You have to use a private consultant. So it's not been, to be transparent, it's not been the easiest process, but I've been trying my best to stay in touch with the state, and I think they're trying to work through it as best as I'll say it nicely, as best as they can too. Sometimes they don't even have the answers that I'm looking for. So it's been challenging.
And age restrictions been similar to that there were some questions about, is there a way to focus it to allow senior housing and so forth, and the state was intentional to say no for a variety of reasons. But with the potential of smaller units and, maybe that gives people that flexibility to still stay in town without the requirement that there be age restrictions.
Yes.
So the number that you're proposing is higher than what the state is mandating. And so that number, I mean, I know that Robin, you said you added, a whole block instead of partial block. Is that basically how you got a higher number, or is there more?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, because it's little increments. So we just rounded up, and when you add up a few times, then that gives you that slight difference.
Okay. I mean,
and I'll also say when you look at the, sorry to interrupt, but when you look at the map, we've spent a lot of time in town on our master plan, on our re-envision Wakefield, about making kind of Main Street corridor really a central area. And by moving, by putting a zone that kind of surrounds that, that is consistent with what we've heard from the master plan and with all of the infrastructure development that we have in place. Not only do the buses run there, like Aaron said, but it's also, if we can add some density there, people can walk to stores and walk to our businesses. So that's why you see that zone kind of on the 2 zones on the far right as well.
Yeah, no, I'm just like responding mostly to like your pushback that you've gotten on going above the requirement. And so I think it's important when you're selling this to state, how you got to that number, just what Robin was saying, like we wanted to make a whole block instead of partial block. And, I think that explanation is important.
Yeah, we didn't go in saying we had a goal to exceed. We looked to find a map that made sense based on actually how the neighborhoods work. And a number of the committee members would regularly walk the site and stuff, trying to understand the variety and the impact of things. I mean, we had a lot of discussion down at the bottom left corner, which is a park, and trying to know where the line was relative to the park and what the existing housing stock is and how it changes. We also talked about topography. I mean, this is a flat map. But in the direction where you live, Melissa, it's a little hilly, and we're like, wait a minute, how would you logistically get a more dense structure when the lot isn't really as buildable as it looks like on maps? So it was very locally focused discussions.
I think
Erin,
yeah. Go ahead.
you had mentioned the sense that the number is based on, this is the census that was just a few years ago, so we don't expect that this has changed. I guess my question is, as the number of housing units change, do we need to continue to adapt this, or once we lay this set of boundaries down, that's the zone and it stays put?
I think we're good for 10 years. that actually is a good point. That has not been brought up, but it is based on census figures. And I believe that our 1696 was based, I want to confirm that, but was based on the previous census data, because we didn't get the 2020 census data until, like, God, early this year, I want to say. And so they were already rolling all this stuff out. So I don't foresee them upping it like next year or anything like that, because they don't get the total housing units until the next census information. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, so like the state told us you've got to hit 1696
Correct.
based on your prior census. So they may at some point come back and say, now you've got to hit 1712 or
I think they would have
2150.
I think they would have already done that already.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
But they might 5 or 10 years in the future, and then
and I don't know that.
Then we could look and see if we need to adjust.
Yeah, I don't know that for a fact. I'm just guessing, so I shouldn't put that out there. But I would imagine maybe they would rework the numbers when new census data comes out in 10 years.
And remember, this was the previous administration. I mean, the current administration is supporting this, but I think, I think they would have changed it by now. I think we're pretty okay.
And I think too, people have concerns, and I've heard this kind of rumblings of our subsidized housing numbers and how this will affect that. I think people need to remember to, again, I keep saying this is capacity building. It doesn't mean that 2,355 more units are going to be added to our total housing units. Base, again, it won't happen for another 10 years. But I don't think, I'm trying to say this the best way, that we're going to be reaching that number. I think that's, the capacity could hit if we did all the right things. I don't think it's going to hit that number, and you're not going to see 2,355 more total housing units. It's a zoning. So.
And is a housing unit, a unit is a unit? So like a studio apartment is a unit, but a 5-bedroom single family house is also just one unit?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
We manage the size through the zoning by, numbers, square footage minimums and so forth. So, and also as you look at the little lines, if you can see property lines, this is not an area of town with these enormous lots, and that actually led to a lot of discussions, and partially why the math doesn't work in Greenwood is because the lot sizes change and then we don't meet the density. So it's not just number of units, it's the density and all that stuff. So as things get further apart, we would have had to create a whole different kind of set of guidelines of more units per lot in order to keep the density. And we know that's not what Wakefield's interested in.
Does Wakefield has rules like can lots be purchased consecutively and something built spanning lots, or is that not? It's like if I buy 2 lots side by side, can I build a house that spans the lots?
Well, you would have to merge the lots to do it, but I think this is the minimum 4,000 square foot for what we're proposing for these dimensional requirements. I was having this discussion with someone I work with the other day. You could still only do 4 units. So that's great. If you want to buy 2 lots that are 4,000 square feet and you want to merge them for an 8,000 square foot lot, you could still only do 4 units by right. You'd be better off keeping the 4,000 and doing the two different, 2 different developments with four units.
Right, but like my neighbor and I are both not 4,000, like neither of us is 4,000. But if I bought their property and got a combined 4,000, we could put up a 4 unit.
Correct.
The goal here isn't that it gets redeveloped by commercial developers and a large number of high rises get built. It's really intended to keep the town feel and all that other stuff. Like it's really not large capacity single buildings, it's multiple medium capacity buildings is the goal.
Yeah.
And note that we didn't allow by increasing the number of units, we aren't allowing taller buildings. So they're from a sightline standpoint, this is the 35 feet that is in those zones today, it remains the limit. So it is more about what you do below 35 feet.
So it has to be 4 units. It can't be more than 4.
I mean, you could do more than 4, but then you're going for a special permit, which sometimes can become a lengthy process. you know, again, you still, if you're in that half-mile radius from the train station, you could use our special permit process. But you could do that today.
Okay, so for exactly 4 units, you can do whatever.
As long as you fit all the dimensional regulations. You could go and get variances if you needed to as well after the fact, but if you needed it for parking and things like that. But right now, by right, you could do, as long as you're meeting all those dimensional regs, you could do that.
So the only other thought I was having was if the, I know that you know, we could never hit the 2,300 capacity goal, right? But like, is there a timeline that we would have to meet just the bottom end, the 1696? So like, as long as the capacity is there, if it never gets filled because nobody wants to build, then so be it. All we've done is made it possible for it to be built, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And I think too, and I don't want to take all your time, I think what would be helpful for you guys to think about today, or you know, for future meetings, if you want to reach out to me, is, like I mentioned before, we're kind of going back and forth with this parking ratio that's being proposed. So if anyone has any insight on that, you know, it's something that we've been throwing around, and just
Is
saying.
there a parking ratio elsewhere in town? Like, what's the current requirement?
So this is consistent with what we have right now with our mixed use multifamily and general resident, 1.5 per unit. Anything more, when we're going to just stay 1.5 per unit, even if you have 2 bedrooms. But currently we have anything over 2 bedrooms, you can have 1 and 2, for 1 and 2, I'm sorry, 2 per unit for 3+ beds. That's what we currently have.
So you'd be required to have more parking if some of those units are larger units currently. And in the proposal, we're saying, no, you really only have to do 1.5, no matter how many bedrooms are in the unit.
Pretty much, right, Robin and Julie? I mean, we haven't talked, I can't imagine these units fitting more than 3. But again, maybe someone could make it work if they did.
Yeah, we're not addressing the number of bedrooms. It's a unit size. So how you break it up, building code limits, you know, the minimum size of a bedroom, but the zoning, we are not, you know, addressing that. So
I imagine Robin and Julie already brought this up, but since the whole premise here is to have more housing, to encourage more housing stock near trains, could we put a cap? That's the minimum parking, or is that the maximum? Can we reduce the parking? Since if you're right by the train, you don't need 2 cars.
Yeah, we can do it.
That's gonna make more of a fight, I'm sure. So this
Yeah,
may
well,
just not be a
that was
hill.
the issue, right? Like, so, I mean, the Greg, who's on the ZBA, said, you know, yeah, the developers would love to do no parking, right? Because then they can build more units.
Well, but they still can't put more units on that same space.
No, they can't do
Right.
more units. I guess they could make like more bedrooms.
Well-
I personally am for much smaller parking minimums. The problem we have in Wakefield is that there's street parking, and then you just basically push people to the street. Whereas in other towns where you don't have nighttime street parking, you don't have that. So we'd have to get into kind of permitting residential parking. So we decided to leave this an open issue for the community to weigh in on. And so I think we would love this particular community to weigh in on this.
Well, and is that something that could be changed later? Like there could be a townwide zoning bylaw update that's like, that would adjust this to 1 per unit down the road.
Yes, it could. It would have to, like, if anything that we're changing within this bylaw would have to go back to the state. But I imagine that the state would be supportive of that. But yes, it's something that we could down the road adjust. And it doesn't affect the numbers significantly. Or basically at all.
How does half a parking spot work?
you round,
Yeah.
you
It's yeah, it's very confusing. I have a hard time explaining it myself. So basically, I read it somewhere once.
Right, so I imagine it'd be if you have 2 units, you get 3 spots. If you have 3
Yeah,
units, you get
yeah.
5 spots because you can't have 4.5.
Yeah,
And if you
yeah,
have
yeah. It's
a
yeah,
4
very,
unit, then you
yeah,
get 6
yeah,
spots.
yeah. Yeah.
Why not just have it be 2?
Well, because if it's 2, then if it's, because that would multiply more per unit, and this keeps it lower,
Yeah,
thinking
it'd
of it
be
as a
8.
group of a building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something for you guys.
I think it should be
makes
N
more
plus 1, N plus 1 units.
Yeah, it limits more when you get much bigger units, buildings, a lot more units, because then you see that the fraction. I don't know if Aaron said this, but just a reminder, that we aren't addressing ownership, that this is either, it could be, condos or apartments. That isn't, zoning doesn't speak to ownership.
Mhm.
So how a owner of a property deals with the parking, that's for them to figure out if it's, because there's sometimes condos come with parking and some don't, so whoever that half space could be shared, if you had 2 units and 3 spaces, how do you split them in half? Well, that's not for the town to decide, that's for them. So good luck.
Okay.
That's something for this group to think about. I'm a firm believer too, this is a transit oriented district. And so we're trying to have more people use, like you were saying, transit, to get around, or alternative modes of the single occupancy vehicle, whether that be a bike, walking. So something we've talked
These are
about.
the other things we can do. Like we could require things like bicycle parking, right? Storage. Like we can put conditions like that on
Yes, we can.
under the as right.
Yes.
We can do things like you need outdoor space, you need, we can put some conditions on this under as right, but once we put it on, they stay.
Well,
So
given,
if we really think that like e-mobility is going to become a thing, we could require that these buildings have charging rooms for, electric bikes and electric moped or electric scooters and things.
Yeah.
Someone else also threw out this idea, and something I was going to throw out to the group, and this would be really more of a question for the building department, but the closer you are to the train, the denser area too, you require, less parking. Maybe the further out you get, you allow for some more parking within this district. Something, I don't know how that would be written within the bylaw. But
Well, I mean, in design, we often say that the half mile is what people can, it's reasonable to expect you'd want to walk to a train within a half mile. Beyond a half mile is kind of the tipping point of people's interest or time to do so, but not to say that they can't. And if, as the map show, our circle is the half mile from the station. So yes, there's a few parcels that are beyond it, but we're within the circle.
But sorry, just to clarify, this is the minimum number of parking or the maximum number of parking?
Minimum.
As written?
minimum.
Minimums, like I would need to provide 3 parking spots for this 2-unit building, but I could provide 7 if for some reason I think everyone has a bunch of cars.
You could,
Yeah,
but
you can always provide more
more,
parking,
yeah.
but there are other rules in zoning that we copied from the current zoning. It goes in permeability because if you were to pave an entire lot, then
Yeah,
there's
you're open
stormwater
space.
and blah blah blah. So there are rules about limiting permeability, and so not to say you can't park on your grass, and there are examples of that in the neighborhood. That's for you to decide how you want to deal with your situation with cars and stuff.
But I'm always here to answer any other questions. If I don't have the answer right away, I can find it. We'll be having our next public meeting next Tuesday. So please help us spread the word. This PowerPoint is on our website. You can see some of our past meetings. There's a lot of background information of this law, and yeah, always here. Just give me a call, email me. Jim Hogan's been great. He's really been leading the charge on this, so he's always happy to answer questions as well. Yeah, we'll keep plugging forward the MBTA working group and
And just remember, in terms of timing, we have to pass this.
Mhm,
We will be bringing it up at the Springtown meeting.
correct.
Which gives us until the November town meeting if there's clarifications, we need anything, but it has to be passed by the end of 2024.
Yes. And it will be interesting too to see how things go with some of these the rapid transit communities like Melrose and a few of these others have to be in compliance by the end of this year. So I've been meaning to look things up, how they're going. If things don't pass, what's the state gonna do? And
I'm
so,
very interested in Braintree. I don't know if people saw the article in the Globe, but they have had no public presentation of how they're planning to present it. They've had no city council hearings on it and so forth.
Yeah, the Boston Business Journal just went through every community. I'll send it over to you, Erin.
Okay.
I actually pulled it. I get the hard copy. I'll bring it over to you. They have an outline of every single one, and most of them have not really done it. There's really not a lot of public information. Like, we're way ahead of the game.
And there have been some communities have actually passed there. So it is a whole gamut of meeting the compliance.
and
We're kind
some,
of
yeah, some communities have already been in compliance. Like I know Stoneham last spring passed a district that fit within the MBTA community. So they're able to just kind of put that in the package and say that they're able to do it once they plugged in the numbers. But yeah, I think we've honestly, I don't mean to like toot our own horn, but I think we've done a really good job of being transparent in this process and letting people know what we're planning on doing. And you know, really trying to address that whole middle housing area. So
I'm excited about this. I think it really gives many more options for people who want to stay in town or move to town. And I said it to the town council, you know, there's some, you know, this is going to be a tough thing to get through, but I think we need to stay focused that we need this variety of housing. We are so close to Boston and we need some housing variety and density.
yeah. Well, thank you, everyone.
I'll come back closer to the Springtown meeting for us to potentially do a statement of support if we feel so moved.
I'm more than happy to come back. Yeah, that would be great. Just let Robin, Julie know, or we'll put it on our calendar once things start moving forward. Kind of fast gear. So
Thank
thanks so
you.
much.
Thanks,
Good
Erin.
job, Erin.
Thank you.
thank you.
All right. So let's go back to approving minutes.
We actually have 2 members have joined since we previously voted.
Do we? Oh, yeah.
So that the motion is to accept the October meeting minutes.
We already have a motion, right? And seconded.
Yeah. Yep.
So we just need to vote.
Okay. Robin,
Yes.
Tiana,
Yes.
Sharon,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
Stefan,
Yes.
Christina.
Yes.
All right, minutes passed.
Thank you.
All right. Next item is to just talk about some of the events that we've done in the last month, just a recap. So the first one's the EV showcase.
Yeah. It was so fun. There's a video that WCAT made, like a little 3-minute showing the event, which is super cool. We put a little press release out. We had 26 vehicles, great variety. A few commercial vehicles, municipal gas and light brought their trouble truck, their plug-in hybrid bucket truck, as well as their electric work van. Velvet Green Lawn Care brought their work van. The water truck was there. We had the parking enforcement car, and a whole bunch of vehicles, and many of y'all. It was great. People wandered around and learned stuff about EVs, and I hope we will do it again. Generally good feedback.
Yes, great job, Tiana, organizing.
Thank
I
you.
think it was definitely
It
a
was fun.
success, and seems like we should definitely do it again next year.
I have a suggestion maybe for next year. A couple people, and I mentioned this to you, Tiana, already, that a couple people asked me what kind of vehicles would be at the showcase, because they were looking at or doing research on certain types of vehicles. So I don't know if we could provide a list
Yeah, ahead of time, like here's what's
ahead
on
of
the
time,
menu.
like these are the
Yeah.
ones that are going to be at the.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Even though some of them didn't show up.
A minority of them didn't show up, though. Most who signed up did. So, yeah, I'd be reasonably confident putting out a menu at the time. Next time, we might need a bigger parking lot, though. This one was pretty full. I mean, not entirely full, but if we get more next time, this one might not do the trick. We might have to go to the Galvin or the high school or somewhere.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that having the actual charging tower there was quite as meaningful as we wanted it to be. Like, it was nice that it was there, and some cars did in fact plug into it, but
Some people needed it.
perhaps. But yeah, we might need a bigger lot next time, or at least to block off the whole lot. Oh, and
It was
and
really nice that Melrose lent us their signage too.
the sign, yes.
That was
So Melrose
huge.
lent the signs. That was great. And thank you so much for the DPW blocking off the lot for us and
Huge.
keeping an eye on it. I didn't realize that the guy was gonna have to sit there from 6 a.m. onward. He was
Is a trooper.
he was a trooper. I think he was real glad to be relieved when we arrived. But yeah, it was good time. So.
And then we had the Wakefield 101 last week.
Yes, that was also fun. Not as, I mean, I wasn't at the one last year, so I'm only going based on what other people who were at both said, but it seemed like the turnout was less than last year. There were a good dozens of folks that wandered through. And we got 3 people who were interested in joining our email list and perhaps volunteering at some point. Talked to a bunch of people about the energy code, specialized energy code bylaw. Bunch of folks who are interested in composting. And as always, a couple people who are surprised that you can't recycle black plastic. So.
I was just going to add that last year it was 3 years because we hadn't had it because of COVID. So last year I think the sign up was triple, obviously, because it was 3 years. So don't be disappointed. I think that's about how many new people were.
That was, I had that hunch. Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks, Anne.
Right. And then we just had the pumpkin collection yesterday.
I am surprisingly not sore, and last year I was. I don't know. I grew like pumpkin muscles in the last year, but I think the kids did a great job with the collection of it. We did have some non-followers of people providing pumpkins with stickers and lanterns or lamps and stuff like that. But we filled the truck, which I did not go back to last year's photo. I do not think we did last year. So she was really worried about actually how to drive back to Gloucester because of weight. So that was awesome.
Falling over the highway.
She had to cover it, but like she called her boss with a photo, was like, is this okay? So that's exciting.
That's awesome. Great job.
Nice work.
Yeah, we'll have to post about that. So 500 it was.
Yes. I don't know why I was like falling asleep. I was like, where did I come up with the number? And I checked my notes. I was like, what was I thinking? So I think it was this pumpkin delirium or something.
Awesome. And did we have any, I don't know how much candy wrappers we had, but
I don't know. I mean, they 2 of the schools, the TARP volunteer didn't actually know where the box was, so they didn't actually move it out. The non-member who joined the TARP donation didn't even know about it, so I think it wasn't as well publicized as the pumpkin part. So thinking ahead, I think that the wrapper needs a little more PR to it. And I once again forgot to bring my wrappers like I did last year. I forgot to bring. So
Yeah, and
I
so I
know
think
you have
we're
another
gonna-
week or so. What's that?
We're gonna leave the boxes for the wrappers out for maybe
There's
another
a box at
week.
the library too.
Yeah, and there's a box
It-
at the library.
I was gonna say, what is it, library or town hall? Because that's we don't.
Library
Library
this year.
this year.
In the
What's
youth
that?
room. It's in the library in the youth room this year.
Okay.
But I
Well,
heard Lily said that the one at Walton is 80% full. The one
nice.
at Woodville was about half full
Wow.
on Tuesday before the pumpkin thing. So I don't know what it's at now, but I'll go empty at least a couple of those in the next few days. And we'll leave it out another week or so, or until they start to get squashy from being outside. We had to move, for folks' information, we moved them outside due to concerns that if there's peanut residue on any of the wrappers, that might be a health concern in the nut schools, because they are not, need to be nut free. So out of caution, we moved the boxes outside. But they're cardboard boxes, so they won't last forever out there. And we don't want them to disintegrate and spill candy wrappers all over the schoolyard. So we'll leave
Yeah,
them
I
out
would
there
say
for just a
another
little
week,
longer.
especially with Thanksgiving coming up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The pumpkins were the more important part. I'm glad that the pumpkins were well.
And I'll add that we have some really amazing carvers out there because we get to see their work. So I mean, some we don't, they kind of collapse within themselves, but there were some really good. And Ann, thanks again for having the DPW sponsor the event.
And then our last event was the Specialized Code Forum on Friday or Monday. Yeah, it was Monday. So that was not as well attended, but
It was really well moderated, though.
thank you. Yeah, so I think we're gonna send the video out hopefully soon, and so people can, it's kind of long, it's almost an hour, but we'll put it out there, put it on our website. We have
Melissa, great
some-
presenters. I didn't know those two gentlemen, the info we had from our internal group presentation answered things, but I think these guys were great for the public.
Yeah, so Michael is gonna come to town meeting to help answer questions, so that's
Great.
gonna be great. And Dylan's been super helpful with us, answering questions and providing resources. So yeah, they've both been great. And thanks to Julie and Sharon for asking good questions and keeping the conversation moving, avoiding the silence.
How many people were online? We were in studio. I couldn't see how many people were online.
So I joined two different ways. I joined by Zoom and by Facebook. I was the only one on Facebook. You can
You
see the
were?
number count. And then in Zoom, excluding like you guys, and I think there were some significant others based on last names. There was like
Yeah, it was
two
my
public
mom.
members.
They're still public?
Absolutely. But in terms of folks that we may have reached that didn't know things, I think the video being available and the presentation being available is how we'll have to outreach to get to people.
I thought
Yeah,
it was
we just
really
need to-
helpful. And I know that a lot of people did some pre-vetting and so thank you to all of you so we could stay focused.
We do need to get the video posted ASAP, though. Like I'm watching my email, and as soon as I see it come in from WCAT, I'll certainly get it sent around.
All right, so that was the end of our events. It was a busy month. We also have town meeting coming up, so it's not over. All right, so next item is update some subcommittees. So for the race reduction subcommittee, we updated our green business program survey. We had previously sent out a survey, but didn't get a lot of people participating, so we updated it to include the proposed green business program that we're trying to launch. And I'm hoping that the chamber and Aaron can send send it out to their groups. It hasn't been sent out yet. But we did get some feedback from the chamber board. So we'll have to take a look at that feedback, and you know, we'll be updating the program proposal based on the feedback. So that's where that's at. And then, as I said, the candy wrapper recycling is still ongoing right now. The library box will be there until November 12th. And then they wanted to take it out of there. And so we'll have the school boxes probably till the end of next week. And then we'll see where we're at with filling the boxes. And then the other thing we're working on, I'm working with Nathaniel on the Galvin recycling program, and he's been super helpful in monitoring what items in the cafeteria can be recycled or not. And he told me yesterday that he's looking to start a recycling club. So I think that's going to be really helpful in kickstarting the recycling again there, coming from the students. So looking forward to see how that turns out. Anything else, guys, I miss? Oh, okay. Robin, anything on buildings?
I do not.
I did hear that the high school, or no, the energy park was approved.
Oh, they got approved by the state. They got their article.
Well, I think it was approved in the House. Now it needs to go to the Senate,
Oh, okay.
but getting close. Next
Yeah, they expect
is,
it to go to the Senate next week, I think we heard today, right, Melissa?
yeah.
But that's really big news. Sometimes those can take years to come through. So.
Next we have the greenhouse gas inventory and green communities. Julie and I met with Steve Mayo today to talk about the climate plan along with Anne. And so it seems like he's supportive of doing it. Not clear, but
I think he's supportive. And poor Anne is now also our designated greenhouse gas staff person.
Thanks, Anne.
We'll make it fun, Anne. Don't worry.
Well, no, I think it's helpful, Anne, that you kind of dug up all that other stuff, because I didn't know about, you know, any of the work that was done before. So I think it'll be helpful to take a look at that. And yeah, I think the biggest thing, Anne, that you can help us with is just applying for grants, and obviously we'll help you put all that stuff together. You just have to submit it, basically.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah. And then, you know, I think the hardest part is just going to have a staff person to oversee the implementation of the plan. So that'll be a little down the road, but I think Steve seemed supportive somewhat. And then Julie, I was going to ask you about the green communities report.
I saw your note on it. Actually, I was cleaning out some emails today. And actually I'm going to kind of kick it over to Anne, and I'm happy to. I don't know who, do you know, Anne, who's doing the annual reports on the green community stuff? Like, who's the lead on green communities?
I'm not sure. Let me check with Joe tomorrow and I'll
Will you
email
do
the
that for
group.
us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, because I feel like it's probably time for us to submit something, and the next round should be coming.
I think the reporting is due in December.
Yeah. So Anne, let us know, and if you need any help, we can help you, but we want to make sure we comply with that so we can get into the next round.
Yeah, of course. I can give you an update. The LED lights are being installed in Town Hall. They've finished the basement. The second floor, I believe, was going to be finished tomorrow, and then they'll start on the first floor. So that's moving right along.
Excellent. Good to hear.
Great. Tiana, community education.
So the big thing really was the EV showcase and Wakefield 101, which we already talked about. Those were our big education pushes. Previously, we're now doing a bunch of education about the energy code vote. I've got a social media blitz coming up over the next week. I've got a post today about all of the different aspects and answering some of the FAQs and stuff like that.
Is there anywhere around town we still need to put flyers?
Sharon did a lot of flyering. Sharon, are there pockets you didn't?
You know, I didn't hit the high school. Or, you know, other schools. I don't know if there's like a parent teacher association or anything like that, that would be supportive. Because I don't have any kids in the school system. But I did put I saw they put the flyer up in the library. I did all the little kiosks around the lake, the 3 kiosks around the lake. I went to the senior center. I went to Brightview. I went to North Ave Diner. I went to Cravings. I didn't put one up in Farmland, but I don't know where else.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh
I
yeah,
have,
I put one up at WMGLD.
I have the flyers now, so I can. I put one up in Remedy Exchange today. So.
Oh, and we put one up in the new coffee shop that used to be Creations.
Yep, okay.
Is there anything in the Greenwood neighborhood that,
Oh no, I didn't go to Greenwood.
I don't know, is there places
I
down
was
there
just
that
thinking
would?
that, I don't know whether there really is a place
Chibo have
there.
anything?
Who?
Chibo?
I don't know if they have a place for,
They've sometimes let me tape things to their windows if I ask nicely.
I'll
in the
print it
past.
out and I'll take it down there.
Yeah,
It's right at
worth a
the end of
shot.
my road.
I've occasionally put something on the bulletin board in the dog park. That's halfway down to Greenwood.
The one on Main Street, the Peter Maybach Dog Park?
Mhm. And Honeydew usually is
Will they
okay
let
with
you?
that.
All
Yeah,
right, I'll print a few out.
I
I'll
mean,
take Greenwood.
I've no concept of how many eyeballs they
Julie,
get.
I have a
at
bunch
those
that I
things,
can
but-
give you.
You do have some? Okay, maybe I'll swing by and get some.
Okay, next item, update from member groups. Amy cannot be here. She's helping with a toy drive tonight. And any updates?
So the cardboard container is going back to town hall for the holidays, so we're gonna stretch it out a little bit this year. We're gonna do December 18th through January 12th. So there'll be, Jen McDonald will send some information out on that. And we're gonna collect string lights, December 4th through January 4th at town hall. So we're gonna ask that they bring them inside only so we don't contaminate, because as long as it's not contaminated, we can recycle them. So people can leave the bulbs in, whether they're the old-fashioned bulbs or LED bulbs. They can stay in. They just can't bring extra bulbs. They have to be attached.
Okay.
So loose ones, can't.
Loose ones that we can't take at this event, but we'll work on it. This is the first, so we'll get better at it.
so,
That's
Anna,
about
I
all.
have some waiting for you. So the plan is just to bring it to town hall after December 4th?
So you can bring them December 4th through January 4th.
Right,
Figure it,
okay.
you take them out during that time. They didn't work, so instead of throwing away, you can
Well,
drop
I
it.
have half strings and I've been like folding over them.
Yeah.
And
You'll be there on the 4th.
I might be. And when does cardboard move to town hall? I didn't hear that.
The 18th, December 18th. And it'll go through January 12th.
Oh, all those shopping boxes. Awesome.
Yes.
Fiona, make sure you get a picture of Robin dropping off her string lights.
Oh, yeah.
Each time I go and bring cardboard to the one at the pit, I take a picture. Anyone, if you take pictures of, your delight at recycling, send them my way and they'll get posted. It's nice to have like real, fresh imagery and not just a picture of anonymous cardboard boxes.
And then I could just give you an update on the metal container. I looked it up today because we have a presentation before the town council on Monday, and 21,000 pounds of metal has gone through the metal container. So that's awesome. Way more than we expected.
You said 21,000.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow.
It's been great. And we only started it mid-August. didn't really get the word out till September, so that's just great.
Wow.
And it has been everything, pots and pans, it's been a barbecue, we got a hot water tank, aluminum door, we've gotten everything.
Do we
So
know
it's
what
been-
happens to all this stuff? Like,
Yeah, so we actually bring it to Turner Metal and Lynn, and then they recycle it, and we actually get a little dividend for it. So far we've made I off the top of my head, I think it's like $1,600. So, but I think it's more than $1,600 is what we got back, but it got out of the waste stream. So it's not being incinerated for $98.50 a ton. So
Wow.
it's some savings there, that since it's probably $4,000 overall that we saved.
So
Is
I'm
that
just
money going
curious,
into the
like-
general fund, Anne, or is it just, is it reserved or
I
something?
believe it's going into the trash and
Okay.
recycling.
Okay, that's good.
No, I was just curious because you said pots and pans. So if those are like perfectly fine pots and pans, like what do they do with them? Do they?
So a lot of them are like broken handle or it's burnt. Most of mine that I donate are burnt. But yeah, so then they sort that out. So like if you have copper or aluminum goes in, if we sort it out, you get a different price. It's just hard for us to have a place to sort it and keep it. So we just bring it over as metal and then they sort it and they make the money.
Okay.
I just want to say I used the mattress recycling system in the last 2 weeks and it was so easy. Like online, gave me a date, out in front and gone. So thank you for that.
And they're actually great in reporting. I forwarded some information about them and they've been great about that. They seem like a very good partner.
Awesome. Have you put together like all this stuff that we diverted for like a total of like trash diversion or?
So yes, so we, like I said, we have to go before the town council Monday, so we have some information that we put together for that.
We'll make sure we get it to Tiana to
Yes.
publicize.
Yeah, I've got the various ones as you've shared them, but a total recap would be great, and I'll post the successes.
Yeah, and including like the compost program, like everything.
Yeah, so what's interesting is last year I looked it up, there was 2,000 pounds of pumpkins. So we'll see if we beat last year's weight, I found those things interesting.
Yeah, Rosie from Black Earth said that they do whatever they do and they're gonna send it to you, so the weight.
Yeah, I'm gonna call tomorrow to find out.
It's gotta be more. We filled the truck. All right, thanks, Anne. Julie?
I don't think I have a lot. We're talking about the bike ped plan on Monday.
So is that for like the final approval or?
No, so this is the revised bike ped plan, which has now been posted on the town council website as part of the materials for Monday's meeting. So anybody who wants to look at the revisions can see them there. We'll discuss it on Monday, but the vote won't take place until December 11th. So there'll still be about a month's time for public input. But I'm very hopeful that that will pass in December. And I think that's all I have.
Who is going to be managing the implementation of that plan?
It will be under Bill Renault. Bill and Aaron have been the leads on it. So, a lot of it's engineering. So I think it'll be kind of integrated into our engineering timetable and database that we have. I mean, as most people know, the big issue is parking on Main Street, and I have not read the final, but it's probably going to be a parking study that happens on Main Street before we determine exactly what happens on Main Street. So plan does not mean, in stone implementation.
Okay. Sharon, any updates?
Just want to mention that the solar project at 480 North Ave, 229 kilowatts, has started construction. we started on Friday, November 3rd. And community solar program, we're gonna have an information session sometime in January. And with an expected start date in April. And then I think most of you know this because Tom sent out an email that the board or the commission voted to support Article 7, the specialized energy code, at our Wednesday, November 1st meeting. And it was, the statement will be, I'm not sure if the statement will be read at the town meeting, but the chair, Jack Warchall, will stand up at the meeting and say that the commission voted to support the code.
Okay, great. Yes, thank you very much for doing that.
That's
Yeah, and Pete's also going to be giving a couple slide presentation at town meeting with us. So, all right. So our next meeting is December 14th. Any other matters not anticipated?
I have a question, Melissa. What's the status of the advertisement for us to get high school students as part of our group?
You know, I just emailed Sherry about that yesterday and she didn't get back to me.
Okay.
The solicitation did go out. It was posted, but I just don't know whether we've received anything.
Nathaniel, were there any updates or anything from the youth council that you want to communicate? I missed the meeting this week.
I think the only thing is just, yeah, I'm working to establish a club. Yeah, and I got some faculty members interested. So yeah, it's just figuring out logistics and then getting the word out for it. So yeah.
Wonderful. Good job.
Thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you.
All right. See everybody at town meeting. Oh, Nathaniel.
In regards to town meeting, tomorrow or the next day, I'm gonna send around like a 1-sentence blurb that I will encourage you all to text friends and neighbors. So now we're entering now the get out the vote part of the town meeting promotion. So if you have people that you think will be favorable about the warrant article, most
Don't
people
invite the ones that you don't think.
right. Invite the ones that you think will support it. But I've found often that, a personal text message, hey Ben, did you know this thing is on the agenda? It's real important. You should come. It's 8 o'clock. Galvin, blah, blah, blah. The Boys and Girls Club is babysitting.
Oh, did they confirm that?
An email went out this evening from the town. So yes, that's all set. So yeah, I think that can be effective just for getting people to go to the meeting, a little friendly peer pressure. So I will to make it easy for you to do this, I will send out some text that you can copy and paste right into your text messages and send it to all of your friends and neighbors. But that would be super helpful.
And people are always curious, like what time it will come on. There's only 7 warrants. We're number 7. The first 6 are not expected to be very time consuming. So I would say at the latest we'll be up by 9, but if anybody's going to want to be there to vote, I'd say, obviously be there at 8 and vote on the other 6 things. But if you really want to just vote on this, be there by 8:45.
And after we have a successful vote, we can all go to the farmer's market and celebrate.
Oh, is it holiday market? All right.
Yes.
Perfect. We'll have a cider.
That's great. All right, that's awesome. Thanks, Tiana, for doing that. All right, motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion.
All right, Robin.
Did someone second?
Did you motion? I'll second.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Tiana,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Stefan,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Christina.
Yes.
All right, thanks, everyone. Have a great night.